So let's talk about how the drawing program is going to be organized. Right now I just have a canvas and a resize redraw method. What I'm going to do is organize this in terms of different objects. And I'm going to have a view object which is responsible for managing my window and the canvas. And then I'm going to have a scene which is actually what I want to paint. And the scene is going to be a collection of shapes. So there's going to be initially just a shape class that manages shapes, a scene class which is a collection of shapes, and then a view where I draw my scene. So let's start by moving some of this code out of our main program and into a view. So I'm going to create a new file. And basically I want this redraw method and this resize method to be methods of my view object. So I'm going to create a new view, and there's no class keyword in JavaScript. There's a new one coming in ECMA script version 6, but that's not been widely rolled out yet. So for now, the way you define a class is basically by creating a constructor for the class. So you start with function, like any other function, but instead of using lower camel case, so normally if I wanted to create a view function, I would say function view. But since view is now going to be the name of a type, a class, I'm going to use upper camel case for it. So that's the primary way that you can tell whether a function is just a regular old function or a method or a variable or a member variable versus whether it's a type, like capital view, capital array, capital object, capital string, and so on. So by saying function view with the capital V, that lets anybody who's looking at the code know that I'm defining basically a class here. And it's not going to take any parameters. And I want to add these two functions that I got from my code as methods. So first I'm going to fix the indentation. Shift-Tab in Notepad++ to reduce the level. And now I have a function that creates two functions, but what I want to do instead is set these functions as properties of my view object. So I'm going to say this dot redraw is equal to an anonymous function, a nameless function, which we'll talk about more next week. And this dot resize is also equal to a new anonymous function. Now, when I want to call that function, I say this dot redraw. So basically, when I create a new view object, it's going to have two properties. It'll have a redraw property and a resize property that are both functions. And so let's look at how that works. Over here, I'm going to create a new view. And then whenever I get a resize, I'm going to call the resize of my view. So let's see if it still works. So I'll save, go back here, reload. Nope, I have a little problem. So let's take a look under JavaScript console. So view is not defined. Oh, I forgot to load it. And I also forgot to save it. So I'm going to save this as view.js. I'm naming it the same as the class name. Now let's try it. Okay, so I still have an error. Resize is not defined. This window a little bigger. Okay, so it worked on the resize, but it didn't work on the onload because I forgot to change that. So let's try view.resize. Great, so now it's working. no errors. And if I get rid of that, it seems to work.